Hi everyone, welcome to Stay Home and Stay Creative. I'm Teresa, the Art Providence intern, and I will be leading you through a watercolor project. This is what the final watercolor project will look like. And before we start, I will list off the materials you would need. You will either need multi-purpose painter's tape or masking tape, and this is the size of tape you will need. You will need watercolor paint. Watercolor paper or thicker paper will work, paint brushes, paper towel, and a plastic container or cup that you will need for your water. And if you don't have those specific paper or materials listed, you can use acrylic paint on the canvas and still use this kind of tape to create the white border. Or you can use printing paper and just use markers, crayons, colored pencils, and have a ruler to help you create this project. Now that you have the materials needed, let's begin our project. The first step is you will grab your paper, and the size of your paper does not matter. I just chose to use a rectangle shape and it's kind of small, but it doesn't matter. Do whatever size paper you want. So the first step is you want to tape the outside border of the paper, and you want to try to get as close to the edge with the tape as you can. And then you can even place a piece of tape on the paper in the middle to help create your triangles. So in the final project, you see that we have triangles. So now, with our outside piece of paper taped already, we are going to tape triangles. So during this process, you can choose how many triangles you want to create. You can create them very big or small. It just depends on how big or small you want, so your tape size will also depend on that. And then once you decided on what type of how many triangles you want, you can begin taping. So this is what mine looks like. I just chose to do a few triangles, and I used this piece of tape I taped before to help me guide how many triangles I want. You can have as many or less triangles as you want, doesn't matter. But now that you have your tape set up, it's time to paint. You can choose how many other colors you want. For this, I just chose solid colors, and now we can begin to paint. First color I'm going to use is green. And if you get paint on the tape, that is fine. Just try not to get as much, but if you do get paint on the tape, that's fine. So you can choose as many colors as you want for your triangles. And just start painting. You can even kind of mix the colors if you want. And if you don't, that's fine. So as you finish painting, and when you're done painting, this is what your project should look like. And for it to dry, I would wait at least 2 hours, because depending on how wet it is, it will need to dry longer. But to help speed up the process in drying, you can use a blow dryer to dry it. Or if you just don't want to deal with drying it with a hair dryer, you can just wait for the next day to take off the tape. So whenever your piece is done drying, you can take off the tape. For this process, be very careful because sometimes the tape can tear off the paper and you do not want that. So just start by taking off the tape of wherever is easiest to take off. And make sure you go slow. And then after you have taken off the tape, this is what the project should look like. And it is fine if you get these watermarks from the paint, but as long as you got a nice crisp border line and cool triangles, then you have completed the project. I hope you all had a fun time with this project, and ACT would love to see your projects. Thanks for watching.